So we're going to be returning this Death Wobble Jeep back to stock just to see what happens, and that means we have to rate our used supply out here and see what we can find. As we're looking around, see if we can find some stock JK springs for the rear, specifically for a two-door. Alright, we got a set of rear JK coil springs. Well, that was surprisingly easy. I don't know what we're going to do for shocks yet. I don't think we have any stock shocks. You want to stay in the trailer? I'll lock you in.
The most challenging death wobble that I've dealt with to date is right here in Serenity. I'm gonna tell you, this has been a process, a labor of love, and at this point in time, it's just straight up a pride issue. I'm just frustrated, and we're gonna figure this out. If you haven't had a chance to look at the previous two videos, you gotta go watch them. The Jeep came in early October for Death Wobble. They had a whole bunch of front end components that were wrong, corrected a lot of the sins that were under the Jeep at that time, and as well, we put a really nice, good quality Iron Rock Off-Road 2.5-inch lift kit on it. We have this whole litany of work that we have done. All the alignments, the alignment checks, all the different parameters that we have done to work over this particular Jeep. So here we are. It's still shaking, and this last round, what I have elected to do, I had our team go ahead and put it back to stock. Inevitably, we actually lowered the Jeep by comparison to what it was. This is a rare occasion, not unheard of for us, but we actually lowered the Jeep. So at this point in time, it is sitting at stock ride height on stock JK springs, control arms, track bar, sway bar links. Everything is as stock as it should have been in October when it came into us. It has still our test tires on it. That is actually the fourth set of tires that it has been on. And we are still testing it without a steering stabilizer. The reality of the situation is, yes, the engineers intended a steering stabilizer to be on the front of the Jeep. That is a comfort issue, and to ensure that in a worst case scenario, when there is a looseness in the steering, that stabilizer will provide the dampening motion to keep that steering wheel comfortable and the tires planted on the ground. So here we are. It's ready to rock and roll. We are going to take it on a test drive. We're going to see if it gives us the shakes and shimmies and wants to inevitably throw us into a semi-truck or off a bridge, abutment, after hitting the abutment. I don't know, something about a bridge crack. And hopefully we get some discernible information that helps us determine where we go next in our process. Oh, that's good. We got to put gas in it again. All right, like I said, we have effectively lowered this Jeep at this point. Right now it is stock. Some of the parts are replacement parts. Some of the parts are absolutely original with, whatever, 88,000 miles on it. So we are going to go on our standard test route and see if this thing tries to kill us. What do you think it's going to do, Davey?
Shake.
You think it's going to shake? I wonder what our viewers think it's going to do. That'll be the question. They should let us know. Because I don't know what it's going to do. To say that I am once bitten, twice shy, that is a phenomenal understatement at this point. I don't trust any of these Jeeps with the shakes. Nope. Some of them are perfect. We never have to do anything. And then some of them just shake no matter what. We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out, because the only thing that's left on this that has been unmodified throughout any portion of the service is the steering gear itself. All right, we're merging. We're at 62. This is how we like it. We're surrounded by semi-trucks. It'll be okay. So this is a pretty flat stretch. Observations, feels pretty solid. It does not feel, you know, particularly flighty. However, I could tell you that before it actually felt pretty solid as well. If it doesn't shake, then we have to look at what's called rear steer, and that is the correlation of how the rear axle pushes the vehicle down the highway versus a front wheel drive vehicle. That will be, oh, there it is. And I'm going to just decrease out of the, we're not shaking as violently, but we're going. All right, I'm not braking. Oh, I'm gonna have to bring her down. Oh. Gotta get off the highway, We got traffic coming all up on us. Here it comes. Look at this line of semis. From 1. And they're trying to get over 2. And I'll just sit here. Because here comes another one. 3. It's busy today. All right, we got this. This is us back onto the road. I think I feel better that it still shakes than not shaking. So it's still shaking. Oh, sugar. God. Oh my God. All right, now we're stopping again.
No, that wasn't 70.
That wasn't even 70. That was 38 miles per hour, something silly. Can we get off the highway at this point now? Important to note that the name of the Jeep as Serenity does not actually have to deal directly with the Serenity Prayer. It's actually about a character from a sci-fi movie or a sci-fi series, Firefly. So shout out to the customer and them naming their Jeep. However, at this point in time, the Serenity Prayer is very important. It's very applicable to our current situation. So as I mentioned, I think I'm happier that it does shake. At that point in time, it's the same shake. It happened in the same capacity, at the same rate of speed, on a completely stock suspension geometry. And based on it shaking, then we can say, realistically, the only things that we have not identified at this time is, in fact, the steering gear. Now, I don't really have a great scientific reason as to why the steering gear might be the issue, but it is the only thing left that we have not addressed. So we'll take this information back to our customer. We can reasonably say it has nothing to do with the geometry of the suspension. Now we just got to get it back to the shop.
Just drop it off here.
Just at the cemetery? We should just drop it off here. That's Davey's suggestion. In our continued pursuit of trying desperately to figure out the worst case of death wobble, and now that we're bone stock, the single variable that we haven't changed was the shocks. So we did change them. We had those soft Bilsteins in the beginning. It was kind of a mixed variable. We did a number of things. So at this point in time, the goal is to, again, we lowered the Jeep as far as stock. The goal is to go fully stock, and so we need shocks. The reality is we don't do a whole lot of stock shocks, like in life, and we throw them all away. People are always like, if you don't take your parts, we just throw them away. And so we have a very large scrap bin, and if there's a will, there's a way. I'm gonna do it. So I'm about to go climb in our 20-30 yard scrap bin, and I'm gonna dig for stock JK shocks. We'll see what we find out. That was a short trip. Don't try this at home, folks. A trained professional. Oh, and there's a lot of good parts in here.
Shouldn't tell people that.
But no, there's not a lot of good parts in here. Had an eye on some stuff. Well, that's not gonna get the job done. That's no good. Also, it's okay. It's okay. I just don't want to get impaled from behind. There's got to be shocks in here. See, like, that could just be this easy, like this. That would be easy. Those are JL shocks. Nobody actually wants these. Definitely nobody wants this. Hello, hello. I want the Jeep to leave. Oh boy, it's okay. That's just what this Jeep's doing to me. So we're on our final drive. Not because we fixed it. Customers need their Jeep back. It's been with us for 3 months and we need to return it to them. We have checked everything. We have done front brakes. We have checked engine mounts, transmission mounts. We opened up the front axle, inspected the carrier bearings, the gears, the axle shafts, the upper axle bushings. We actually lowered the Jeep and returned it to stock. We took video underneath and we threw it out to you all on the interwebs and let you diagnose it. Nothing has seemed to fix this Jeep. So at this final drive, what we have done is we have towed out the Jeep. What we had originally installed in October was good quality Moog, tie rod and drag link. All the joints are in excellent condition. We still don't have a stabilizer on here because stabilizers are for comfort, not for fixing things. And we have towed it out roughly, I don't know, an eighth or a little less when measured by our tow alignment plates. So we're going to drive it on the highway one last time. It is back on its 2.5-inch lift, and all the stuff, all the other parameters are perfect. And it's back on the customer's first set of tires that we originally turned it out on back in October. And we're gonna give it a go. Davey did a great job zip tying the GoPro on the front. And this time we're gonna watch, and the last time I suppose, we're gonna watch the steering gear and the track bar bracket on the frame side. Or the GoPro is gonna fall off. But you see the footage of that, it's not going to go anywhere. It's got a redundant safety system, right, Davey? It needs fuel yet again. I'm just going to get on the highway. If we run out of gas, it'll just make for the better story. It's a lot of traffic out today. It's going to be a heck of an adventure when we start to death wobble in all the traffic. This Ford Escape behind me has no idea what's coming their way. I really shouldn't intentionally death wobble it with how close this Escape is following us. We're gonna move over to the right lane. I got some distance between me and this Ram. Here we go, Davey. Do it for the gram. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Any moment. Oh God, it's getting worse. All right. Son of monkeys, Uncle. Oh God, it's reverberating. That had like an aftershock to it. Oh God. Oh. So now we're 66 and we can swallow up all of those. 68, 69, we're good. 72, here we go. Ah. Perfect. It doesn't do anything right now. I don't like the death wobbles.
Disconnected.
So we lost it.
Can't find this GoPro.
The GoPro has exited the Jeep at this point. I didn't see it leave. The GoPro has left the chat. It's so frustrating that that second go around, it didn't wobble at us at all. We're gonna do it again, see what happens on the way home. Did you just volunteer to ride in the back of Jeffrey's truck on the highway, shooting footage?
Why do I have to be in the back?
Because it makes for a better story. You have to be in the bed of the truck doing highway speed, shooting film.
Yeah, you just gotta zip timing first.
Zip. What are you into, Davey? 66, 68, solid as a rock. We're at cruising speed at 70. Three things are gonna happen. We're either gonna cruise home uneventfully, we're gonna death wobble again, or we're gonna run out of gas.
You smell it?
What does it smell like?
Defeat.
That was terrible. Thought you were gonna actually come with something productive and useful. Only 82,000 miles on this thing. I specifically had Davey put the GoPro on so that we could watch the steering gear itself, and I can see the track bar bracket here. I was actually looking for hairline issues at the track bar itself. So I'm going to run the video back. We see the drag link here is nice and tight. We don't have any issues, with threads moving in or out. What we're talking about here is this steering gear moving erratically against the frame, as if the frame itself has compromised. We can see the track bar bracket here is actually pretty solid. We all know JLs. This bracket actually had weak welding on it, and so that bracket itself wiggled around. We can see the pitman arm move on the sector shaft, but it's pretty robust. But the box here moves at a little bit of a different rate than all of this other stuff. So if we kind of block that out and we just look at the box itself, we'll actually see the box kind of hop and skip and jump a little bit. One of the guys went over and he checked the bolts holding the box on, and it's tight. So it would be our argument that probably we have something going on in the frame itself at this point that has the whole box kind of moving around. And again, we've seen from the drives, we can go 66, 67, 68 miles per hour, and this thing doesn't have any problems whatsoever. It is that really perfect sweet spot of 70 to 74. And so that kind of harmonic spot, and I bet we're hitting just the right tweak where the steering box itself has some play. We're forcing some play through the track bar, which comes in behind this drag link, and it rocks on the track bar pocket, and it's probably affecting the structural integrity of the frame rail itself. We've seen in a number of other 07s to 11s, we've seen this portion of the frame rail start rotting and rusting already. Kind of makes you sad, but it is possible. This is probably the worst case that we've seen, where we don't see a lot of the visible from the outside rust, but we see a lot of rust overall. And we definitely have this walking around some, so. Yep. Well, we're going to put a couple steering stabilizers on it and call it mint. We did not put dual steering stabilizers on it. We didn't put quattro.
Steering stabilizer?
Steering stabilizers.
Staring.
Staring?
You said staring.
Like men who stare at goats? Do you know that reference?
What were you guys doing in the 80s?
We did not end up putting multiple steering stabilizers on the Jeep. In fact, we actually didn't really do a whole lot more other than put one single quality Fox 2.0 standard steering dampener on it. The Jeep was towed back in where it is towed in, roughly a 16th to an 8th. The steering stabilizer was installed and the Jeep went off to head back to its owner, with the recommendation that we put some form of steering gear sector shaft brace. Synergy does actually make a product like that. Back in the 80s through the 90s, you actually had a steering box brace that would brace from one side of the frame rail over to the steering gear and provide some form of lateral support. That is for a reason. Now, with our modern day technology with hydroformed frames, we don't typically see flexion at the steering gear itself like we once did with C-channel or some hybrid form of frame that we used to have. With that said, if the Jeep sustains some type of big heavy impact, some form of big pothole, an out of balance tire that, that wore funny, that if some rust on the inside of the frame let loose and delaminated, the frame itself could become slightly compromised or weakened, which would allow that steering box and frame to kind of move a little wiggly woggly there. So there are products for that, but unfortunately we've gotten to the end of our rainbow with the services that we can provide to the Jeep. We eliminated a whole lot of standard issues. We threw the ball out to you, the viewer, and you guys offered your diagnostic input, and we checked and tried pretty much anything you could ever suggest. Obviously to no avail. That last and final footage, big thanks to our cameraman, the Savage, for configuring the GoPro to watch that frame rail and steering gear area. We could kind of confidently see in slow motion where we have kind of a wobbling movement that is the frame flexing some. And that is the most likely explanation at this point. Does the product exist that does a perfect job of tying the passenger side to the driver's side frame rails so that it gives it some rigidity? No, but there are products that will stiffen up the track bar pocket, the steering gear, and the sector shaft itself. And maybe in the future we'll have the opportunity to try that on this Jeep. In the meantime, it's a very, very specific set of parameters that creates death wobble in this particular Jeep Serenity, and hopefully the customers are well aware of that and they're just going to choose to avoid that in the future. This was a heck of a challenge, folks, and we were here for it. Our team rose to the occasion and I'm super proud of them for that. We'll see what the future holds. Hopefully this is the hardest one that we have to deal with in a very, very, very long time, but who knows? The next death wobble job that is darn near impossible could come through the door next. Hopefully not literally.